Marshall. P is you are a doctor, and Q is you went to college. What does a conditional usually look like? Don't use a specific. If P, then Q. What does P represent? Hypothesis. So our hypothesis here is you are a doctor. And then what comes after the hypothesis? Conclusion. Conclusion, which here is you went to college. Okay, so can someone tell me what they think the conditional is? Austin?
If you are a doctor, then you went to college.
Perfect. And is that a true statement? Yes, very true. In the United States of America, in order to be a doctor and have a PhD, you have to go to college. All right, let's find the inverse. Who could tell me the inverse? Andrew?
If you aren't a doctor, then you didn't go to college.
Yep. If you are not a doctor, then you did not go to college. Is that a true statement?
False.
That's false. I am not a doctor, and I definitely went to college. Okay? So the inverse, we do what? Starts with an N.
Negate.
You negate. Okay, perfect. Converse, who can give me that? RJ.
If you went to college, then you are a doctor.
Perfect. If you went to college, then you are a doctor. Again, is that true? False. I still went to college. Still not a doctor. And then the contrapositive. Go ahead, Noah.
If you didn't go to college, then you are not a doctor.
If you did not go to college, then you are not a doctor. Do we agree?
Yes.
I agree. Okay, I hope that my doctors all went to a beautiful college and got great grades. All right, so this is conditional, inverse, converse, contrapositive. Is there a question on this? Okay, when you get to your quiz, think like an adult when you get to your question. I'll explain what that means. If it said, if you eat junk food, then you will gain weight. Don't think of it as you in your perfect metabolism as a 14, 15-year-old. As an adult, if I eat a bunch of junk food, I will gain weight. Does that make sense? That's not the exact scenario, but you understand. Okay? All right, so we're going to review quite a bit. Make and test a conjecture about the product of two negative integers. So when you make and test, what do?
3 tests.
We do 3 tests. Some people put T1. It doesn't bother me. T2, T3. All right, so it says, make and test a conjecture about the product of two negative integers. What does product mean?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. So we're going to pause for a second. What is the word for addition? Sum. The word for subtraction? Difference. And then multiplication? Product. And then division. Quotient. Perfect. All right, so, yes, sir.
Do you want the conjecture?
Not yet. We're going to just make up a bunch of numbers. Give me 2 negative numbers. Go.
-3, -2.
All right, these are the ones I heard. What's -2 times -4? 8. All right, let us do another. Let's do this. -8 times what? Let's make it times an odd. Sure. What's -8 times -3? 24. Let's do 2 odd numbers.
1 is 9.
What's -1 times -9? 9. Then, is that my final answer? No. What will my final answer look like?
Conjecture.
A conjecture, which is a sentence. Where will I get the beginning of the sentence? Yeah, up here. All right, so the answer is the product of 2 negative integers. And now we say what we found. 2 negative integers is?
Positive.
Yeah, you can put always positive or just positive. Ta-da! Make sure in your test you're as diverse as possible. I saw in the first one we did 2 evens, so in the next one we did an even and odd. The one after that we did 2 odds, things like that. All right. Another part on the quiz will be both of these, justifying each step. So if you want to write down this equation so we can all be on the same page. I am currently grading some of my last classes, and they didn't learn the words. Distributive. I saw distributary, which I don't really think is a word at all. So make sure you look over the words and know them. What would be the first thing we do in this problem? We would distribute. So we leave the negative 7 by itself, and then we're going to distribute into our parentheses. What's 2 times negative 4x? Negative 8x. 2 times negative 3? Negative 6. That equals 11. To justify that step, what would I write off to the side? Yeah, distributive. Is this the property of equality? No. Why isn't it a property of equality?
Because you only do it on one side.
Yeah, you did it on one side, you didn't do it to both sides. Anything like that. All right, so from here, what do you think we'll do? Combine our like terms. So negative 7 and negative 6 are on the same side of the equal sign, so we make sure we do the action it says. Minus 7 minus 6 is minus 13. Minus 8x equals 11. So you can write off to the side we combined like terms. Like terms. All right, then what do we do to continue to solve? Yeah, we can add 13, which is which property? The addition.
Property of equality.
Property of equality. All right, so we got negative 8x equals 24. What do we do here? Yeah. I'm going to put a blank screen for a minute so we have room. That's all that happened. I didn't do anything else. Divide by negative 8, which is the division property of equality. Of EQ is just fine. All right, and then what does x equal? All right, which is which property? Substitution. Is that a property of equality? Yes. All right, so I believe you have 2 of these on the quiz. So I know it's a bit of writing, but there's only 2 of them. Are there any questions on why we did any part of this? Yes, sir.
I was kind of confused on that. So I was thinking that you would do the parentheses first, and I kind of like messed up. Now I realized that you have to like distribute two to 4.
What do you mean do the parentheses? Like combine negative 4x and negative 3? You can't do that because they're not the same term. When you combine, because you were thinking of PEMDAS, which works when you have like 5 times 7 minus 2 or something like that. There's no x. We're not solving for an x here, whereas here we are. So you couldn't combine these any further. That makes sense? Any other questions on this one? Okay. All right, so I know it went away. I'm sorry. The negation of the statement, I'm not going to write these down because when we negate a sentence, what word do we add or take away? The word not. So the roads are not icy becomes the roads are icy. And then the grapes are purple becomes the grapes are not purple. I believe there are 2 of them on your quiz. You're welcome. 14. All right, so we're going to pause here. We're not done. But a lot of people look at this and they're like, oh my gosh, this looks so hard. But then you have to actually read the problem. You'll be given a picture, like similar to this one. You're going to determine which statements about the diagram you cannot conclude. Basically, which do you not agree with? Which do you think are false? So doesn't mean they're false. It's just that there's not enough information to decide if they're true or not. Okay? So that's what this means. Points Q, C, and D are collinear. What does collinear mean? Points on the same line. Are all 3 of these points on the same line?
No.
Is Q a point? Do you see a dot? There's not a dot. So it is not a point. So are these 3 collinear?
No.
Mm-mm. So that's why I circled. You can't conclude it. It's false, so that's why you're circling it. Okay? You don't want to circle the ones that are true. Okay, that's what this statement means. Okay? Line L, I know it's blurry, but that would be this line right here. Line L and line CD intersect at point C. Do we agree?
Yes.
I agree. They intersect right there. So I agree, we don't circle it. Okay, you only circle the ones you do not agree with. Okay? Point B and C are not sorry, let me read. Point B is not coplanar with point S. What does coplanar mean? On the same plane. So this is saying that they are not on the same plane. Do we agree?
Yes.
Yes. They're not on the same plane, so this statement is true. We don't circle it because we can see the picture and we conclude that this is a true statement. Plane P is perpendicular. Can anybody remember what perpendicular means? Eric? High five. You need to write this down because we learned this and then some people don't remember. Lines that intersect and form a right angle. Form a right angle, also known as they form 90 degrees. So either way. Sorry it's in red. Probably are a little bit hard to see. And just a shout out, what does the symbol look like? Does anybody remember that?
A T.
Yeah, upside down T. Good job, RJ. Upside down T. Remember this, because it might pop up somewhere important. All right, so now we're going to see. This is why we kept going after the first one was we circled. This is in a multiple response section, meaning there's probably more than one answer. That's why we've just kept going. Does that make sense? Plane P, is that the vertical or the horizontal plane? The vertical right here. Plane P is perpendicular to plane QCB. Perpendicular would mean they form 90. What do you usually see when they form 90? A box. Do you see a box anywhere near the intersections? No. You would normally see one like here. Oh, it's not very bright. Yellow? You would see one here. Can you see that better? Can you see red better? Well, you would see like this dotted line, showing that they're perpendicular, and you don't. Also, there's a problem with how they named the plane. Plane QCB, you can only name a plane with 3 letters if they're points. Are Q, C, and B points? No, Q is actually the name of the plane. They could have named it plane CDB or DCB. Y'all remember? Okay, so we're going to circle this one because we also cannot conclude that this is correct. It doesn't have enough information. It doesn't have that right angle. Okay? All right, here we go. Decide whether inductive reasoning or deductive reasoning is used to reach the conclusion. What students are mostly getting wrong on this is not writing why. On the quiz it says explain your reasoning. So if you don't explain your reasoning, you can't get the full amount of points. So make sure you read the directions. What is inductive reasoning based off of? Patterns and what else? Behaviors. Deductive reasoning is based off of? Facts. Okay? And definitions, laws, rules. Okay? So gas prices have gone up every day this week. The price of gas will go up tomorrow. What do we think? Inductive. That's a pattern. I've seen that it's going up, so I think tomorrow will also go up. Because today is Friday, tomorrow will be Saturday. Deductive. Because the fact that Saturday comes after Friday. Use the law of deduction. So the law of detachment, which is a law of deduction, but the law of detachment, something has to happen in order for us to make a conclusion. Can anybody remember what it is? Sheridan? Yeah. The hypothesis must be fulfilled. So basically, what the law of detachment will look like is they'll give you a conditional statement or conditional sentence and then give you a statement right after. Okay? What is the hypothesis of my conditional sentence here? 3 points lie on the same line. So that's my hypothesis. What's the conclusion of that? They are collinear. There's a typo. There should be a then, but it's not. So anyways, what is this statement that they gave us? Yeah. Points A, B, and C lie on line L. Okay, so we need to see if this statement matches the hypothesis, because if it is, and if it does, we can make the conclusion. Okay? It says 3 points. Are we given 3 points? Yes. Lie on the same line. Points A, B, and C lie on line L. Are they all on the same line? Yes. So what happens is we take the subject points A, B, and C. What do we know about them? If 3 points lie on the same line, what do we know about them? They're collinear. So we don't write they. We would write are collinear. Are collinear. The next one we're not going to write down because it's pretty simple. Write the if-then form of the conditional statement. It is time for dinner if it is 6 p.m. What word kind of sticks out to you if we're writing this in if and then form? There's one if. I know, you're pretty far back. There's one if. What usually comes after the if? Then. If shows you the hypothesis, and then there will be a then. So when we rewrite this, you see that there's an if. Which would come first, dinner or 6 p.m.? 6 p.m. If it's 6 p.m., then we will eat dinner. So that's what the conditional sentence is. If you see if, what comes right after it will be the hypothesis. If it is 6 p.m., all right, then can we conclude? Then it's time for dinner. It's time for din. All right, that's an N. All right. The last thing we're going to do together, we got very little time. Use the law of detachment to determine whether you conclude the given information, if possible. So again, we're using law of detachment. We're going to do number 6. If you go swimming, then you'll get wet. You went swimming. What's the hypothesis? You go swimming. What is the statement they gave me? You went swimming. Does this match the hypothesis? Yes. If you go swimming, well, I went swimming. Okay. Then what can we conclude? Then you will get wet. So you would write, you will get wet. I'm just going to circle it for now. We're going to skip down to the law of syllogism. Syllogism. Still unconfirmed about that one. I would write down that the law of syllogism is always made up of 2 conditional statements. 2 conditional. Did we talk about this yesterday? Okay. 2 conditional statements. All right, and then I told you that there will be something special in those 2 conditional statements. The common phrase. They'll have a common phrase. And what does this phrase have to be in order to... It needs to be a hypothesis in one sentence and a conclusion in another. Okay, so, and then our final answer, it says, write a new conditional statement. So our final answer will look like a conditional statement. All right, so number 8, if you study, then you'll pass the exam. If you pass the exam, then you'll pass the class. What is the overlapping phrase? Yeah, you will pass the exam. Is one of them a hypothesis and one of them a conclusion? Yes, so we're going to ignore them while we make our new sentence. Okay, if you leave it like this, I see we have a hypothesis, if you study, and then a conclusion, then you will pass the class. This is the new sentence that you write. Okay? Number 9, if a straight angle is bisected, then each angle is 90 degrees. If an angle is 90 degrees, then it is a right angle. Is there an overlapping phrase? Yeah, an angle is 90 degrees. So again, we forget about it. What's the new hypothesis? Yep, my hypothesis, if a straight angle is bisected, conclusion, that is a straight angle, or right angle, sorry. The last one, we're just going to talk about stating which law it is. If the absolute value of x is x, then x is positive. The value of x is 3, so the absolute value of 3 is 3. State the law of logic that is illustrated. How many conditional sentences are there? There's one. It's right here. Remember, a conditional sentence has an if and a then. In order for it to be the law of syllogism, there needs to be 2 conditional. Are there 2 of them? No, so this is the law of detachment. Okay, because the absolute value of 3 equals 3 would be a specific case to make the hypothesis true. All right, so we would say that that is detachment. Okay, go ahead and clear your desk of anything besides a pencil and a calculator. Yes? Yep, you gotta hurry. I don't want to wait for you. bar one at the beginning of class. Alright, clear it all. Looks like I only have one. Let me just put it up in the corner. Alright, so there is a bonus. Please don't do the bonus until you are at the end. What this screen says is once you have finished, you can take out your student journal. Basically, don't waste your time and do nothing here. Here are the problems again, just to remind you, if you didn't write them down. If you're on the left side of the table, raise your hand. Thank you. W2. Alright, so you guys, for your bonus, the last thing you do, on the bottom, there's like a blank spot on the bottom back. Construct a linear pair where one of the angles is 65 degrees. And if you're on the right side, raise your hand. Sorry, my classes earlier did not know left and right. There you go. Construct a linear pair where one of the angles is 105. Again, that's bonus, so don't do it till the end. And if you don't know how to do it and live your life, it's okay. Can you make sure your desk is clear? Today is the 20th. Sorry, I don't know. It's not allowed to. If you have an extra, let me know. Again, today is the 20th. 9/20/18.